Hi, Jada. It's great to see you again. Last time I saw you, we were sitting on the beach having fish.
We were. I kind of missed that. As you can see,
Yeah?
I'm not sitting on a beach.
Where are you right now?
I'm in downtown Chicago, and my husband and I just, well, about 6 weeks ago, sold our house that we renovated and thought was going to be our forever home, and sold it all and decided that we're going to start our midlife awakening adventure. And we're stopping in downtown Chicago for a few months to spend some time with our kids, and then we're off to Portugal.
Awesome. It sounds exciting. So let's dig into that in a little bit more detail later. But right now, let's go back probably, I don't even know, like a couple of years maybe, when you first started thinking about Portugal. Or was it Portugal, or was it just thinking about changing your life? What kickstarted this whole idea?
Yeah, so we have 6 kids, and the last kid is
Am I allowed to say
actually,
wow right now?
I know, right? And the last kid is in college, and I mean, when you have that impending, like, okay, we're going to be empty nesters, and we'd already stuck a toe into being an empty nester as most of our kids had already launched, but it's really where you start thinking, okay, what's next? Like, what's next? And none of our kids happen to be married. We don't have any grandchildren yet. And there was like this sliver of time where we thought, wow, they're starting their beautiful lives, and we're so grateful and blessed that they are. And we kind of started toying with the idea of what would retirement look like. Now, we're both in our 50s and we're not quite ready to retire, but because of COVID, we both have remote jobs. And we just started toying with the idea of, what would our ideal life look like now? If we were to create that, what would that look like? And we really started just thinking about early retirement and looking around the United States. And it's sad to say, but it was kind of cost prohibitive because it's just really expensive to live in the United
Whereabouts?
States.
I mean, you weren't in Chicago when you were having this conversation, were you? Where were you?
Well, we were in the suburbs of,
Okay.
yeah, so still in Illinois, but so we just started looking at places around the United States. What would it be like if we were to retire in California or Arizona, like some of the Florida, some of the typical places people like go to find the sunshine, right? And that started that whole adventure of where would we go? And I don't even know how it dropped in, but we stumbled across a YouTube video about this new, not maybe it's not new, but the top places to retire. And Portugal was like number one, and we were like, "What? What are you talking about? Where's Portugal?"
I love it.
And that started the adventure. And then we stumbled across your channel, actually, and we sort of binge watched your channel. And then we decided, let's take a little vacation and see what it's all about.
So obviously, when you think of Portugal, there's a lot of different places in Portugal that you can retire to, and obviously, my channel is all about Algarve and everything. So, did that sway you? Did you think about Porto, Lisbon, or even the country at all, like the countryside, as opposed to the Algarve?
Well, yes and no. I mean, we did a little research and found that the northern parts of Portugal were more, rainy and cold, and we were kind of trying to get away from that. And so we really, on our scouting trip, we used your videos as kind of that jumping point. And of course, we met with Robin and Nick, and we used your whole team as this jumping point of how would we even start to even consider relocating to Portugal, or what would it look like? And so we spent most of the time in the Algarve, going from all the way from the east to where it borders Spain, all the way to the west, all along the Algarve. And when we go back in August, we're actually going to spend some time in Porto. We're going to go to Madeira Island. We're going to explore some of those other parts of Portugal that we didn't, to kind of really settle in, what feels good to us. But we do like the sun and the beauty of the Algarve.
Yeah, and and as an aside, I just been to Madeira. I just got back last week actually, and it was fantastic. I don't know if I could live there, but it was amazing. Like to go on a holiday, and what they say, a lot of people say, you might have seen it online. They say it's the Hawaii of Europe,
Yes.
and it really is. I mean, apart from the sandy beaches, you don't have the sandy beaches, but it's
Right.
stunning spot. So yeah, it's definitely well worth having a look at Madeira. But
Yes.
now, this obviously you're sitting around researching, watching YouTube videos and stuff, and then the impulse to actually get over there and do a scouting trip. That must have felt pretty much like, whoa, no, this is pretty real. What are we doing?
It felt scary, and interestingly, like our kids were like all for it until we actually said, okay, we're doing it. They were like, wait, what? But it really just felt like almost like, well, why not? Like because we live remotely, or because we work remotely, we had always thought that maybe we would travel a little bit more in this midlife awakening, second half of life time period. We thought we would travel anyway, but it actually was, it sounds crazy, but it's actually more affordable to live in Europe and travel in Europe than it is to go back and forth. And so logistically, it just started making more sense to explore that a little bit more in depth. And so we decided to just spend a couple of weeks and kind of putting a toe in the water and just seeing what it was actually all about. And
And I guess you could always just call it a holiday. And if you
yes,
didn't want to go and it didn't work, and you think, okay, cool, that was fine. We tried that. We just checked it out. No
yes,
harm done, right? Yeah.
exactly. And that's sort of how we approached it. And then it just sort of, at the same time, they were announcing the end of the NHR. And so, obviously that was a big tax benefit. And if you're looking to retire, like, you got to think about those things. And so that sort of put a little fire under us a little bit, because it was like, wow, well, if we really do love it, like, we need to move fast. And because we wanted to secure that if we could. And once we were there, we fell in love with it's just beautiful. We fell in love with the culture. We fell in love with the pace of life. We fell in love with the beauty of the food, the people, the land. It really is, it was more than we ever thought it would be. And we really felt this strong pull that we needed to go back, and we needed to really, we came back and we immediately missed it. And we were like, okay, that says something.
That's wonderful. But it's amazing. I mean, like I've been living here since 2001, so like 23 years. And I'm not sure if you've been following closely, but every week I've been walking across the Algarve, and
I have, yes.
it's been amazing. It's like I'm falling in love with the Algarve all over again.
Yeah.
Just see these stunning cliffs and these incredible
Yeah.
views. I mean, last Friday we were just walking along the top, and it was hot, and it's springtime, so it's quite wonderful. Anyway, I get a bit carried away when I talk about this place. But you trained in psychology, right?
Yes. Yeah, so I'm a physician assistant and also a licensed professional therapist. And I have my own company. And when COVID happened, I went fully remote. And this is still such a demand, for remote telehealth and telepsychology. And it really isn't going anywhere. Like, people really do love that ability to connect from their home or from work and provide those services. So yes, so when I was thinking about doing this, like, there was some real moments where, especially when we had to start getting rid of everything, the psychology of literally letting go of everything. And I actually do a podcast about this, and it's called the Swedish Death Cleanse that we sort of followed, and it was, in a way, it's a gift to your children to not have to sort through all your stuff when you pass away. But it really was, to me, I had to go through a lot of work of what is it to let go and, create what we hope is a better second half of life, right? In this adventure-filled life. but you can't take it with you, and you can't lug all your stuff across the country. I mean, I guess you could, but that doesn't seem
A lot of people do,
fair to
don't
me.
they? I mean, I think a lot of people, they have these massive containers full of stuff and then they just leave them there and they spend a lot of money just storing their stuff that they never see. So, how do you think people can let go? Because obviously you're quite good at it now. I mean, you've gone through the whole process. How can people start?
It was hard, I will say that, and it takes time. So it took a good 9 months to process a lot of that, and both of my parents have passed away, and so I had inherited lots of their stuff that I had to sort through in addition to my own stuff and my children's stuff, and giving them the things that belong to them. And I think through the process of really just understanding it's stuff, and the things that are important are people and memories and experiences. And when we started the process, it was hard. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. And by the end, it was like just throwing things out the door. Like,
But
it felt burdensome.
you talked about memories and things, and obviously those are the ones that we need to hang on to, and it's great. But so is there a sort of shortcut to try and digitize those memories? I mean, like I remember when my
Yeah.
mom passed, I went through all the old photographs and I took them
Yep.
on and I digitized them and everything. Is that
Yes.
is that part of it?
It was. And a lot of it was there were so many photos that I had to go through, and I pared them down. Like some of them were duplicates and some of them had damage from water or, different things that weren't even salvageable. But I created a huge bin of photos. I pared it down, and my daughter actually said, I will take care of this. I will digitize all these photos for us, for the family. And so, yes, a lot of them are being digitized as far as like those photos, those things you can't replace. But there's also just a lot of things that we have that we hold on to. And I don't even know why, I mean, I had a
Yeah.
pair of ski boots that I haven't worn in like 12 years. Why do I have them?
It's a
So,
good question. But it also happens, and I'm sure it sort of gets stored away in a garage or in some sort of distant corner, attic or whatever of the house. But there's some places I've seen in Europe, and this was actually way before I got married. I had a girlfriend in Spain and she was Portuguese, and I went to her house and I saw, and it was her mother's house that she was living in, and it was this super small apartment just cluttered with stuff. And all these old ornaments and Santa Maria here and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, I don't know how people live like that. And
yeah.
it's hard. You got to try and declutter, doesn't it? Do you think decluttering is like a cleanse and a reset?
For sure. And energetically, it felt like the more I did it, the lighter I felt. There was, our things have an energetic weight to them as well, in addition to the physical weight that they have. There is, those memories are hard and sometimes heavy. And when we process them and let go, and there was a lot of tears through this process, looking at old photos and having those memories and just cleansing, just allowing those emotions to move through me. And as a therapist, that's what I would tell people to do. Like, it's important to process those and to really take those memories in and feel them and digitize them if you want so that they're with you. But I think part of this midlife awakening and midlife crisis, that sometimes people coin it as, is that there's this sudden clinging to youth. And, I don't want to cling to my youth. I want to expand my life. And that expansion actually took on the form of letting go of things that were kind of holding me back from really stepping into that exploratory, more, what is out there. And I think midlife kind of, we get to this place of saying, is that it? Like, is there more to life?
Yeah.
And we get to this
But that,
place of, go ahead.
yeah, no, I mean, that's a really good question as well. I mean, if we looked at midlife crisis, or as you said, a midlife awakening, which is a lovely word, when does it generally happen for people? I mean, it's not a time thing. It's not like when you're 50 or when you're 40. It seems to be like when things are changing, like when your kids are moving out, right? Is that
Yeah.
related or not?
For sure. And often it's anywhere between 40 and 60 if we were to like get into the quantifiable numbers. What is midlife, right? Like that, those are the age ranges. However, I've had a lot of people reach out to me, especially through like my Instagram, where I kind of talk about midlife awakening. And they're like, I think I'm having a quarter life awakening. Like I'm in my late 20s, I'm in my early 30s or late 30s. Do I still qualify? And I would say yes. I think that whenever there are shifts and changes, or when we find that we start asking those bigger questions, which can happen younger for sure, where we go, hey, I think that there's more that I want out of life. I think that I'm ready to step out of the hustle culture. And I think I see a lot of that with the younger, like late 20s, early 30s, where even at that age, they're saying, yeah, like I don't want the traditional, this was what was prescribed as what success looks like in my life, especially with the digital nomad community, which I guess now I'm one of those, is that you really can create a life that looks very different from your parents or from your friends or from what is the box that we think we have to live in. We really can think outside the box. And I think that there's a lot of younger people actually who are already doing that and are kind of spurring some of us older people to go, you know what, maybe there's something to this, thinking about living in a different way. So yes, it can happen younger for sure, and even older, where we just kind of look around and go, you know, I think that I need to make a change. I think I need to align somehow with what I value in life. And, you know, I'm ready to explore looking at life from a different angle.
So I remember like my father, when he got to that age, he bought a 4x4 and that was his like midlife crisis. You know, we're going to go and cruise around the bush. And because, you know, in South Africa where I'm from, we had a lot of bush. Some people sell everything like you've done. Some people get tiny house and they just go minimalist.
Yeah.
Other people try van life, which I've tried. It's not that much fun. And others just sit and rot away and stick with the same old lifestyle. So you have decided to minimalize everything, or what's that, maybe digitize or whatever you want to call it, and move to Portugal. Is Portugal going to be the end, or is it just the beginning of a whole new remote lifestyle?
I have no idea. And that's part of the beauty of it, is that, you know, we're definitely starting in Portugal, and I see ourselves staying in that and having that be a jumping point to explore the rest of Europe from that space. But who knows? And we'll come back and forth. Again, like our children are here. And the thing is, as our young adult children are starting their lives, we would probably see them 3 or 4 times a year anyway for holidays. And, you know, they're busy. They've got a lot on their plate starting their lives. And it's just kind of like flipping things reverse. Instead of expecting them to come to us and sit on the front porch and, you know, drink an iced tea and talk about life, we're going to be like, no, we're going to drop in on your life. We're going to pop into your home. And because we have more time, they don't have time. You know, when you're young and you're hustling and you're out there trying to create your life, time is precious. But as we're older, like I have more time. So it just seemed to make sense, but although it's pretty opposite of what most people do in midlife, you know, you get bigger houses, you get bigger places, you get more, and then you just almost sit around and I hate to use the word sit around and rot, but you know, that's what it felt like. I felt like I was just sitting around waiting to die, and I thought, I can't. This does not align with what I value. And I wanted to, not like I need a 4x4 or a fancy new car, but, you know, I do feel like there was this time that, like my children are starting their big adventure, I thought, well, I want an adventure too. I'm not quite done.
Brilliant. Well, that's exciting. It really is exciting. And you must feel really excited for the future. But I was just thinking about when you're saying, people buying bigger houses, and some people buy more houses, and they have,
Yeah.
a house and all over the place. They've got like 4 or 5 houses, and to try and manage that is just
Yeah.
such a mission. And I think minimalizing, and sort of condensing everything and making it more easy to move around is an exciting. But I suppose it's different strokes for different folks, isn't it?
It is. And a lot of friends thought, what are you doing? Like, especially because we bought this house in 2020, and it was a farmhouse, and we renovated it and loved it. And it was like pretty much perfect. It was perfect for our lifestyle. And so when we finished it, literally in weeks of finishing it, we were like, it just so happened that we had already gone to Portugal, we had come back, and we had started the visa process, and it was approved, and now we had to it was time. It was time. We had to decide. And so when we put the house up for sale, there was this collective gasp of, what are you doing? And so, and my husband kind of said, it's like we're taking the snow globe of our life and we're turning it upside down and shaking it. And we're just giving it a little tussle and see what happens. And, sometimes
There's got to be a flip side.
Well, probably.
I mean, you haven't found it yet. You don't wake up in the middle of the night sweating, going, "Oh my God, what are we doing?" And I'm,
No.
leaving everything that I know.
No, because to me, the world got smaller. It's an 8-hour plane ride from where we are to Portugal. If I retired in Arizona, it'd still be a plane ride. If we retired in California or Hawaii, that's a longer plane ride. So it really felt like the world became smaller. And not only that, I think that, again, it's not like, there have been times in my life where I have had to let go of everything. When I went through different transitions during my life where you don't know what the next day is going to look like. But when we create that friction is when we grow. And as a therapist, I would tell people too, we don't grow when we're comfortable. And things had gotten comfortable. And, when we have friction in our life is when we grow and expand. And so, yeah, there probably is a flip side, and we haven't really encountered it yet. But I think that everything that we've given up, we could replace if we needed to or wanted to.
Mm-hmm. It's just hard doing that. I mean, I'm just thinking about it myself. We've been in this house for, 12 years now, and it's really comfortable. It's looking great. And it's like, I don't want to go and pack boxes and move around again, because that's a lot of hard work. But yeah, I mean, you're right. You don't grow unless you do this kind of stuff. And talking about growing and moving, when you're in a new foreign environment, not necessarily a foreign country, but how does one sustain healthy habits? Because it does get upset a bit, doesn't it?
It does. But ironically, it was one of the reasons, because again, that's the arena that I live in. That's my life. That's my work, is being a PA and one who specializes in psychiatry and a therapist. I know, and I teach this through my holistic psychiatry and psychology practice, that much of our mental health is based on the foundation of our physical health. We now know that mental health absolutely is directly related to our physical health, especially our gut health and movement and the food that we eat. So this move actually is really a move toward more health and wellness, toward healthier food, because I just think Europe has a better handle on healthier food than the U.S. They just do, because of the laws that they put in place to protect and limit certain additives and things like that make it healthier. So it's more access to beautiful places to move your body. To me, the food is of higher quality. It just is. And so actually thinking about living in Europe or Portugal specifically, that was one of the draws, is that you can exercise pretty much year round. You can eat higher quality food every day. You have more access to the things that actually contribute to your health and wellness. And it was a large part in the decision to do that and to seek a place that is actually going to be enhancing for our overall health and wellness as we move into this next phase of life.
Sounds fantastic. Sounds like paradise.
Well, you live there, Nick.
I know, and I love it. I do. But I think I remember when I moved. I mean, I had moved without a wife or a family or anything. I moved on my own, 20 years ago, and it was easy for me to just up and go. But
Sure.
it was quite traumatic in a way. When I look back on it, it was lonely. I didn't know many people. I was struggling to get. I actually started my own business in a foreign country, which is pretty crazy and pretty hard. But I know that the relocation process can be really traumatic for some people, and sometimes it's the husband or the wife who's having the trauma, and the other partner is absolutely happy about it. So, what do you think people need to look out for? Because I'm obviously you're living this thing right now. So,
Yeah.
are there certain stages which are trickier than others, and have you got any advice for people to try and help them?
Well, I will say two things. Number one, that my husband and I are on the same page. And so that's huge because a lot of people would say, oh my gosh, I would love to do this. People would say this to me, but there's no way my husband would go for this. Or I would love to do this, but there's no way my wife would be on board. She wouldn't get rid of like her 15 pairs of shoes or 40 pairs of shoes or 8 handbags. Like there's no way. That just would not happen. And so you have to be aligned, right? Like, and we are, which is good because we're both very adventure-filled people, and we like living right on the edge, and so we're aligned in that way, which is awesome. And the second part is we never would have actually probably done this had it not been for you and your team. So like the services that you provided made a jumping point for us, because had we not had Robin giving us the tours, had we not had that conversation with you initially, and then talking with Nick about housing, and then talking with Anna Teresa and having her navigate the legal system. And there's a lot of very confusing pieces to the puzzle. And honestly, had we not had all the services that your team has, like we probably wouldn't have felt so at home immediately in making this dream into a reality. Like you create a soft landing, because if it were just us flying over and trying to navigate things on our own, I don't think we ever would have done it.
Well, that's brilliant. I didn't even pay you to say that.
I know, right?
Thank you.
But it's true.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's wonderful. But I imagine that's kind of what I set out to do 3 years ago when I started this YouTube channel, was to try, because I remember thinking to myself when I moved over 20 years ago, it's like all I knew about the Algarve was I went down to the travel agent and I got a brochure of the Algarve, and I was like, that's what, because in those days there wasn't much. I mean, there was internet, but there wasn't much, right? And nowadays, like, I feel like I want to try and provide a friendly face and something for people to realize that actually life's not that much different here. I mean, sure it is, but it can be, it's okay, and it's easy to move in.
Yeah. And we're kind of piggybacking on that, because now, because we're making this leap, you were a bridge for us. And so now, by doing this, we are extending that bridge, and so now we become that bridge for other family and friends that are like, well, what's this life in Portugal all about? We're like, well, come on over. There's a friendly face on the other side of the ocean, and let us share, create memories, and literally like bridge those two worlds through our family and friends. And I think eventually when our kids start to come over and they start to see the beauty of it all, they're going to be like, yeah, this rocks. This was awesome. Thank you for selling everything. And
yeah, let's hope so. Yeah. So you're coming in August for another trip. When are you going to come over full time? And what do you think your ideal outcome is? Do you have a little picture that you've painted in your mind of what your ideal outcome in Portugal will look like?
Yeah, it obviously it will evolve, because we're still sort of putting our feelers out and trying to figure out where do we want to like have a home base. Where will that be in Portugal? So that's still somewhat of an unknown. But ideally, we see ourselves being there, probably 9 months out of the year, and traveling back and forth to the U.S. a couple of times during the holidays, and spending a month or two here with our family and our children, but then also having them come over and spend holidays and here with us. So we do have family here in the U.S., so we will obviously come back and forth, but we don't see ourselves having like a place in the U.S. permanently anytime soon. We do see ourselves having a place really in Portugal as being the home base, and we kind of move from there, where we fly back here to see friends and family, and especially pop in on our children's lives and stay with them potentially.
And don't forget to skip around Europe as well. I mean, I'm just going to see my brother in England this weekend, so I'm just popping off, which is great.
Absolutely. And that's actually when we have that landing spot in Portugal. That is the ideal life, is that we will travel all throughout Europe, working remotely and just exploring and spending chunks of time. I think they call it slow travel. So, being digital nomads, we can work, thankfully, anywhere. And so we'll just kind of meander and explore and create a life that just really seems to be full of vibrancy and passion and learning. How fun to just learn new things all the time.
Sounds absolutely gorgeous. It sounds wonderful.
Right?
That sounds great. Well, Jada, I thank you so much for coming on and sharing your whole story with us. It really is awesome. Say hi to Russ as well.
I will.
Yeah. And hopefully we'll catch up in August when you're over here. Definitely.
Absolutely. And, if there's just for people who are going through this process, sometimes there is that psychological, there's a lot of things to work through and to tease apart and to let go of. So, if there's ever people that really want to dig a little deeper on, hey, I'm interested in doing this, but psychologically I got a lot to unpack, literally and figuratively, then, for sure, people can reach out to me and I can hopefully...
What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Instagram's probably the easiest. That's, at Solvia Soul, which is S-O-U-L via S-O-L-E. And it's really this whole idea that we're using the soles of our feet, literally, to travel around and find our soul's calling. And that's literally what we're doing. And so, we're creating a life that you love and one that loves you back, whatever that looks like. But sometimes that means unpacking some things and working through how to let go and create a life that you really love.
It really is inspiring, Jada. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It was awesome, and I can't wait to connect back with you and have another lovely fish meal on the beach, listening to the sounds of the waves.
Me too. I can't wait either. That'd be good fun. Don't do it every day. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, stay well. Thanks so much, Jada. Appreciate
Thank you, Nick. All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.